Somewhere right now, there is a 26-year-old lying in a hammock on a beach in Bali. Laptop open, drink in hand. Caption on Instagram reads, "My money works while I sleep. Yours should too." And somewhere else, there are about 40,000 people who saw that post, felt a sting of envy, and started Googling how to make passive income. Here's what nobody tells you about that guy in the hammock. He spent 4 years building the thing that now earns while he sleeps. He failed twice before it worked. He lived on noodles for 8 months. He worked 16-hour days during a stretch where most people would have quit. And the photo in Bali? That was a 5-day vacation. He was back at his desk the following Monday. The hammock is real. The passive part is a half-truth at best and a complete lie at worst. And the way passive income is sold to you every single day on every platform is quietly doing more damage to your financial future than almost anything else. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make some people uncomfortable. But it might also be the most useful thing you hear this year. Let's start with why this idea is so irresistible. The concept of passive income plugs directly into one of the oldest and deepest human desires, freedom. Not just financial freedom, emotional freedom, time freedom. The freedom to wake up when you want, go where you want, and never answer to anyone again. That desire is completely legitimate. There's nothing wrong with wanting that life. The problem is what the passive income industry has done with that desire. They've turned it into a product, a very profitable product. Every year, thousands of courses, books, YouTube channels, and Instagram accounts sell the idea that passive income is accessible, quick, and most importantly, passive. The word itself is doing enormous psychological work. Passive, as in, you don't really have to do much. As in, money just flows toward you like water downhill. And people buy it. Not just the courses, they buy the belief. They restructure their entire relationship with money and work around a version of passive income that simply does not exist in the way they imagine it. Here's the first myth we need to destroy right now. Passive income is not free money. It is prepaid money. Everything that generates income without your daily active involvement. Rental properties, dividend stocks, a business you step back from, a course that sells on autopilot, royalties from a book, all of it required a massive upfront investment of either time, money, or both. The income is passive. The work that created it absolutely was not. When someone says, "I make $10,000 a month in passive income," what they're really saying is, "I did enough work or invested enough capital at some point in the past that now I receive ongoing returns." That's a fundamentally different statement. And if more people understood that difference, fewer people would feel like failures when passive income doesn't magically appear after 30 days of trying. Let's break down the 3 most popular passive income ideas people chase and what they actually require that nobody puts in the headline. Number 1, dividend investing. The dream: invest in stocks that pay dividends, collect money every quarter, live off the income. The reality nobody shows you: to generate even $1,000 a month in dividend income, at an average dividend yield of around 4%, you need to have invested roughly $300,000. That's the number, not $100 in a Robinhood account. $300,000 of invested capital. Now, that's absolutely achievable over time through consistent investing. But it takes years of saving and compounding to get there. The people living off dividend income didn't stumble into it. They built it over a decade or more of disciplined investing while living on less than they earned. The passive part comes at the end of a very long, very active journey. Number 2, digital products, courses, ebooks, templates. The dream: create something once, sell it forever. Money comes in while you sleep. The reality: the average online course makes less than $1,000 in its lifetime. Not per month. Total. The ones that make real money do so because the creators spent years building an audience first through blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts, social media, before they had anyone to sell to. The product is not the business. The audience is the business. And building an audience is one of the most grueling, slow, unglamorous forms of work that exists. Most people quit within 3 months because they're putting out content that nobody is watching and it feels pointless. The ones who make it are the ones who kept going for 18 months before they saw meaningful traction. Not because they had a secret, because they stayed. Number 3, rental income from real estate. The dream: buy a property, rent it out, collect monthly income, build wealth. The reality: being a landlord is a job. Tenants call at midnight. Pipes burst. Properties sit vacant. Maintenance costs eat margins. Property management companies charge 8 to 12% of rent. Mortgages, taxes, insurance, and repairs often leave real cash flow razor thin, especially in the early years. Real estate absolutely builds wealth. Long term, it's one of the most proven wealth-building vehicles in history. But calling it passive income in year 1 is like calling a newborn baby low maintenance. It becomes more passive over time as mortgages get paid down, as you systematize management, as equity builds. But in the beginning, it demands constant attention, capital, and patience. Now here's where the psychology gets really interesting and really dark. There's a concept called fantasy rehearsal. It's what happens when your brain spends so much time imagining a future outcome that it starts to treat the imagining itself as progress. You visualize the laptop lifestyle. You picture the rental income hitting your account. You imagine the course sales rolling in. And your brain, which struggles to distinguish between vivid imagination and actual experience, gives you a small dose of the reward feeling. The problem is that fantasy rehearsal doesn't just feel good. It actually reduces your motivation to do the real work. Psychologists at UCLA found that people who spent time visualizing success were less likely to take the steps needed to achieve it than people who spent time visualizing the process, the hard, uncomfortable, unglamorous process. The passive income content machine is essentially a fantasy rehearsal factory. Every video, every Instagram post, every "I made $10,000 while I slept" thumbnail, it feeds the fantasy just enough to feel like inspiration, while quietly draining the urgency to actually build anything. And here's the cruelest part. The people selling you the passive income dream, their passive income comes from selling you the passive income dream. The course about making money with digital products, that is the digital product. The YouTube channel about financial freedom. The ad revenue from your attention is the income stream. They have built a real business. It's just not the business they're describing to you. That doesn't make them villains necessarily. Some of them genuinely believe what they're teaching. But the incentive structure is deeply misaligned with your actual financial well-being. The real mechanics of passive income. Let's be very honest about what passive income actually requires, because it is real, it is achievable, and it is worth pursuing. Just not the version being sold to you. Real passive income is built on one of 3 foundations. The first is capital. You need money to make money passively. Dividends, interest, REITs, all of these require invested capital. The path here is simple but slow. Earn, save aggressively, invest consistently, wait. Time is the engine. There are no shortcuts. The second is audience. For digital products, content, and creator businesses, you need people who trust you before you can sell to them. Building that trust takes content, consistency, and time. 12 to 24 months minimum before most people see real income. The ones who make it treat it like a second job during that period. The third is systems. For businesses and real estate, you need operational systems that can run without your constant involvement. This takes years of active management, hiring, refining, and reinvesting before the income becomes genuinely passive. Every single form of legitimate passive income traces back to one of these 3 things. And all 3 require something the passive income industry almost never talks about: a long, boring, unsexy period of doing the work before the results arrive. The dark truth ending. Here's the part most finance channels won't say. Most people will never have real passive income. Not because they're not smart enough. Not because the opportunities don't exist. But because the actual requirements, years of patience, significant capital or consistent effort, delayed gratification, and the ability to keep going with zero external validation for a very long time, are genuinely difficult for most human brains wired in the modern attention economy. We live in a world that rewards instant feedback. Every app, Every platform, every piece of content is engineered to give you a result in seconds. Passive income building requires the exact opposite wiring, investing heavily now for returns that arrive years later. The statistics are sobering. Less than 5% of people who start a blog, YouTube channel, or online course ever make meaningful income from it. The majority of small landlords barely break even in their first 5 years. Most retail investors panic sell during downturns and never let compounding do its work. This is not pessimism. It's pattern recognition. The people who do make it, who genuinely, sustainably live off income their money or their systems generate, share one characteristic that has nothing to do with intelligence, luck, or timing. They stopped looking for the passive version of wealth building. They embraced the active, difficult, long-game version. They built something real, slowly, while everyone around them was chasing shortcuts. And eventually, the active work they did created something that no longer needed them every day. The hammock is real. The beach is real. The freedom is real. But the path there looks nothing like the Instagram post. It looks like years of work that nobody sees, building something that most people will quit on for a payoff that arrives long after the excitement wore off. That's the truth about passive income. And now you can decide what to do with it.